Traditionally, we think of people as becoming quite a bit less sexually active once they reach retirement age, but that's not always the way things go down in Hollywood. Numerous celebrities have retained active sex lives well into their twilight years, and we'll be taking a look at some of the most notable examples in this video. From Susan Sarandon to Betty White, join Facts First as we take a look at celebs over 70 with wildly active sex lives. Florence Henderson. The beloved star of The Brady Bunch, Florence Henderson may have passed away at age 82, but she certainly wasn't sexually frustrated at the time. In the time before her death, Florence took every opportunity to publicly express that her sex life was just as active as it had ever been. She even claimed in the years leading up to her death that she felt more like she was in her 20s than her 80s due to the tenacity of her libido. She also often talked about her variety of partners, one time claiming that one of her lovers was a chiropractor living in Fort Lauderdale. Before her death, she preached there was no reason people over a certain age shouldn't enjoy good sex. Of course, not all people venturing into their 8th decade are quite as fit and attractive as Florence was. Florence claimed that the aforementioned chiropractor was one of many friends with benefits that the actress kept on her list of contacts, saying she had many, many more. Not only did she claim she maintained her healthy sex drive into old age, but she also claimed that sex got even better when she became a senior citizen. According to Florence, the wisdom of so many years had taught her how to make love better, and she found herself enjoying the act of sex in a new way as she ventured past retirement age. She also said the wisdom of her age made her much better at choosing partners. When it came to choosing sexual partners, Florence was always sure to track down someone with a sense of humor. According to her, if one of her male friends didn't have a sense of humor, he wasn't going to get any benefits. When she was in her 80s, she would generally seek out men in their 60s. She claimed she wasn't going to be slowing down anytime soon when it came to sex, but death ended up getting in the way of her plans. The actress was married twice throughout her life, with her second and last marriage being to a man named John Kappas. They divorced in 2002, after which Florence apparently had a sexual free-for-all leading up to her death over a decade later. Susan Sarandon. Although Susan isn't quite the same age that Florence was at the time that she shocked the world with stories of her numerous friends with benefits, she is certainly much older than the average sexually active female. At 75, Susan is still having as much sex as possible, believing the act is good for her skin. The news that Susan was sexually active came out when she was asked about her skincare routine. According to Susan, the thing that has kept the elderly actress looking spry well into her twilight years is sex, and lots of it. But she also claims her otherwise healthy lifestyle has contributed to her elderly beauty. In addition to being sexually active into her 70s, Susan has always made sure to wear sunblock when she goes out in the sun, maintain an exercise regimen, and avoid smoking. Although Susan does her best to stay healthy into her old age and maintain an active sex life, she claims she isn't afraid of aging. According to her, she's simply doing the best she can with what she's given. She's never been overly worried about losing her sex drive, and this lack of stress may be what has kept her looking so young. Susan also likes to flaunt her good looks publicly. She's one of the few women in their 70s who love showing off her cleavage, and her good looks are still entirely natural. Susan has never had to turn to surgery to keep her good looks. Hey, if you're enjoying this video so far, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to Facts First for more. And stick around for more older actors who are enjoying their sex lives. Suzanne Somers. After Susan Sarandon, Suzanne Somers is another 75-year-old star who likes to keep sexually active. The public learned about Suzanne's active sex life while she was talking about how her and her husband's lives were changed by COVID-19 quarantining. According to Suzanne, the period of isolation caused them to become reacquainted with each other sexually, and they began having sex nearly every day, sometimes twice. This shocking story is made even more impressive when you consider her husband, Alan Hamel, is 10 years her senior. Suzanne has claimed her secret to keeping Alan sexually active is to inject the senior citizen with testosterone every Tuesday. According to her, these Tuesday injections make Wednesday a very active day. Suzanne has claimed that the couple sometimes has sex multiple times a day, depending on how long it's been since his most recent testosterone injection. Betty White. It's debatable whether Betty White is sexually active currently, but the beloved television icon maintained her sexual activity well past age 70. While audiences today might not initially think of Betty as a sexual beast, she broke onto the scene as a sex symbol in her early TV days. When she appeared on The Mary Tyler Moore Show, she won audiences over with her good looks. It wasn't until decades later that the actress came to be known as America's Grandma. At age 99, Betty may or may not be having sex, but her most recent sexual conquests certainly aren't too far off. The actress could be seen and heard talking about her sex life in 2010. According to Betty, she's always been a sexually active person, and she seems to be doing her best to keep this habit alive into her old age. Since the death of her husband in 1981, Betty has had several decades to explore herself with multiple partners. Though she's probably winding down in her old age as she gets closer to 100, she isn't afraid to still broach the subject of her sexuality when asked. In the 1980s, Betty White memorably acted on the series The Golden Girls, playing Rose. The series broke ground by showcasing that elderly women still had sex drives. While the character of Rose might not have been the most sexually active of the Golden Girls characters, it appears the actress who played her has had a bit more going on. Jane Fonda. At age 83, Jane isn't seeking out any serious relationships, but she has shared she still sexually fantasizes about men, particularly younger ones. Jane has been married 3 times, with her ex-husbands being Ted Turner, Tom Hayden, and Roger Vadim. She claims she often considers attempting to strike up a purely sexual relationship with a much younger man. After 8 decades of being alive, Jane claims she's only interested in striking up a relationship with someone if they can show her something she's never seen before. She likes to strike up relationships where the other partner can show her things about herself she's never noticed, and these types of relationships have grown increasingly difficult for the actress to find the older she's gotten. According to Jane, her ideal sexual partner has a good amount of knowledge they can bring into the relationship. Whether this knowledge is predominantly carnal or simply knowledge about life, she didn't clarify. But one can assume that after decades of sexual experience, the elderly actress needs someone who knows what they're doing to have a good time. Now it's time to hear from you. Did you know about these older actresses and their sex drive? Let us know in the comments section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to FactsVerse if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.